All right, friends. By now you should have read second story, um, Valley of the Moon, and this one was very similar to Fort Mose. Both stories are told from one character's point of view through a diary, and they share a lot of similar struggles. So after reading this story or listening to the audio, you're gonna do a similar activity that you did yesterday. At the end of the story, if you notice, it has the same flow map like we practiced yesterday. This time, you're going to fill out the entire thing on your own. So if you need to go back and look at the example from yesterday, I would suggest you do so. But as far as how you're going to do this, I am just going to have you in your own journal in a scrap piece of paper, create a flow map that kind of looks like this. I have a bigger version of it right here. And you're going to use this information to find the theme of this story. So remember, when we're finding the theme, we need to find some important details first. So if I'm going back and rereading or re-listening to the text, I need to think first who this story is about. And this is mostly, I think we can agree, it's mostly about Maria and her situation. It's told from her point of view. So the important details are all going to be about Maria and what's going on in her life. So if I'm thinking about an important detail versus not so important detail, I'm going to be looking at the text and figuring out what could I use to summarize this story. If I'm going to explain this story to somebody who hasn't read it, how would I explain it to them? I wouldn't tell them every single thing because that's just rereading the story. So I'm going to go back and think what sentence or what detail really summarizes the beginning of this story and how Maria is feeling and what she is doing. And I'm going to do that throughout the story and try to figure out what are the important details about Maria. What can I say is important about this story? What she's doing, how she's feeling, how she's interacting with the other characters. Once I have at least 2 to 3 details, I can use that information to find the theme. Much like yesterday, how we did the same thing with the main character in Fort Mose, you're going to do the same thing today. So once you have those details, you can kind of put those details together and figure out what the theme of the story is. If you remember back to yesterday, there are a bunch of common topics that you'll probably find in stories, like kindness and loyalty and perseverance and acceptance and courage. Remember that those are topics to start with to help you find the theme, but they're not themes themselves. So, for example, if I feel like I've seen kindness throughout this story, the theme wouldn't be kindness, but that could help me find the theme. I need to figure out, what does the author want me to know about kindness or perseverance or loyalty? Also, remember the theme does not have characters' names. So I'm not going to be giving a theme that's like, well, Maria learned to be kind. That's not a good example of a theme because the theme applies to the reader as well. So I want you to take a little bit of time and find those important details and try and figure out what is the message that can be learned from the story that Maria learns, but also the reader can learn as well. And just like yesterday, there will be a discussion post on Google Classroom. When you are done and you feel like you have found the theme, go ahead and answer that question on Google Classroom. Um, the question is, what is the theme of Valley of the Moon? And just like yesterday, you're going to go ahead and submit that.